Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to talk about the Fight Pass Invitational 10. We are going to talk about everything except for the main event, Nicky versus Victor Hugo. We basically spent the entirety of last week's episode breaking that down. If you want to hear that matchup, tune into last week's show. We spent all the time basically going through their first three matches in detail, how we think the match is going to go, the dynamics, the styles of it, but that was all last week. This week we are focusing on basically the undercard because it's a phenomenal card. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good.
So we had some tech issues there for a second. Again, apologies for the audio quality. We're getting everything together soon. Hopefully should be in the new space within the next month. I'm doing the best that I can to get it all organized and all taken care of so that it looks good. Let's see. So let's move on. Do we have any news this week?
We have a couple things that we just didn't kind of handle over the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Say it that way.
Things we didn't handle.
Things we kind of like slacked off on. We kind of could have dealt with, at other times.
So big news. I think the biggest news we have this week is that we have we finally found out how many years Pat Downing got suspended for.
We did. I think it was today. Because at least I saw it today.
For once we're on top of news.
Yeah, I saw Pat posted today and I put it to the chat.
Yeah, you put it to the Grappling Rewind chat today. 5 years.
Yeah.
That's, again, he posted it. He posted an Instagram post if you want to see it. Basically, he has a 5-year suspension for IBJJF. Wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him compete for IBJJF even after that.
Well, I'm pretty sure that he's not going to compete for a bit because he got his foot kind of ripped off when he was doing, it wasn't Zapatero, but it was like one of those Florida
Wild West tournaments?
Wild West, like absolute tournaments.
Okay.
And he got like a foot ripped off. Yeah.
So now, we know that. If you want, we went in detail about that whole situation when it happened, but now we actually know that he was suspended for 5 years as a result. I don't really have much more on that. It's interesting information, but it's kind of what we all suspected for that kind of infraction for IBJJF.
Exactly.
That's usually what they give you in that nature.
And,
like, it's not really surprising.
And technically, like, he's not a purple belt.
Now for IBJJF for that. Yeah.
So.
Whatever. But other news for guys that are interesting and still competing in IBJJF, Adam Wardzinski. I think this is a week or two late at this point.
Yeah.
He has now moved to Vegas with Renato Canuto, and in their gym, they're training together. I am very excited for what that move means for Adam Wardzinski. Again, one of our favorite guys to watch. I really enjoy his game. Really interesting game to study, so it'll be interesting to see him now with Canuto in Vegas. Both Raquel and Renato in their gym.
Yeah. And they were training with the donkey guard guy.
Jeff Glover?
Jeff Glover. There was a picture of all of them training together in the gi recently, and I was like, that's some interesting stuff. But yeah, they're all at down at Hybrid.
Yeah, which
is like outside of Vegas. So
I've always wanted to drop in there when we were in Vegas, but it's not like in Vegas proper. It's a little out.
Yeah, but that's kind of nice because you don't have to worry about parking.
Which I hate.
At least and we know people at. We know people.
Oh, we know people there now.
At Hybrid.
I forgot about that.
So we can stop by, and I think all of them kind of floated, like because Roberto's out of Vegas, because he's out.
Jimenez is out of Vegas too.
Yeah, him and his brother, and then you have the 10th Planet Vegas,
and which is Varela's spot.
Yeah. So I mean, when they all show up in the same room, which I hear they all do, it's quite the shit show that you're putting yourself into.
Well, let's honestly, this is a great segue. So that's most of what we got for news this week. We're also going to talk about pitch submission, Kyle Bojino versus Brendan Allen. But this is a good segue from Roberto Jimenez. Like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, you said.
I think it was 2 weeks ago, but it finally found the YouTubes.
The IBJJF Absolute Finals in Austin for their Winter No Gi Open. We had Roberto Jimenez versus Declan Moody. It just got pushed to YouTube a couple of days ago, and you found it was like, hey, man, watch this.
Well, I wound up seeing it on Instagram. They put a highlight of it, and it was just the Roberto back take that he hits like almost immediately. And I was like, holy shit, that's
Declan.
Because he's, for whatever reason, Roberto has decided he wants to do like every IBJJF known to man. Because he's been doing literally like almost every single one, and he's been winning almost every single match.
Again, he is very, very good.
And in the gi and no gi. And
he's young still, so man, get the reps.
I'm sure it was gi and no gi.
Regardless, so let's run through this match. If you haven't seen
Yeah.
it, there's a YouTube link for it. It's a super neat match. It's pretty high pace for IBJJF. We have some really good back and forth. What I like about these matches, again, I wish we had a little bit of a camera angle, but we don't. Is that we see a little bit. We saw some things that surprised me from Declan. Basically, the biggest thing is
I am correct. He's been doing gi and no gi, hitting like flying arm bars and flying triangles on people.
Roberto Jimenez in your division and a local. You're like, hey, come on, Roberto. Declan hits a really interesting, like, modified arm drag trip to get Roberto's back. And again, Declan is a bigger guy than Roberto. Yeah. Again, Declan's probably 250 plus.
Yeah, and that's like halfway through the match.
Yeah, and Roberto is probably
200-ish
now, if give or take, depending on like where he is.
Yeah.
So Declan's a much bigger dude. It's an absolute finals. You see him hit an arm drag, come through, and then essentially jump Roberto's back as they're coming to the ground. He gets Roberto for a split second in a crucifix.
Yeah.
And I went, this is crazy. But Jimenez, great scrambler, pulls his head out, pulls through, and then ends up in a top passing position. And I just thought it was wild because Jimenez is typically like the scramble back kick guy. To see a guy of Declan's size be able to do it was really, really impressive. Again, I really like Declan Moody. I like his game. I like where he is going, kind of trajectory for his career. But Roberto Jimenez, man, he has moved up into the heavier weight classes recently and has just been stomping through absolutes as like a smaller guy in absolute. But I think it's really interesting, his placement in absolute, because with the style of game that he plays, he's just big enough now at like 200. You guys are like 185. Are the smallest guys that can typically really contend in an absolute more than like a one-off performance.
Yeah.
Roberto at 200, but still playing the game of a guy that is much smaller, kind of like what Gordon did early career when Gordon first moved up from like 170 to like 200 plus. He still has a lot of that speed, a lot of the scramble, and still is used to closing off the space that the smaller guys will give him versus the space available to him from the bigger guys, because they're just bigger people with longer bones that are going to give you more space.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things in this match overall that I thought was super neat was Roberto's pass. He eventually he transitions on Declan a bunch. He has a really good back take. Declan bases down. And then he is essentially, Declan is trying to push him out with his knees into like essentially a single leg X guard or an X guard. And Roberto is able to get high enough over Declan's knees to punch an underhook and then just go straight to him. And this is sort of the sequence that led to the finish, was him punching this underhook, sliding his knees to mat. It was like, oh, that is just
like
beautiful.
Just like the throw your hips forward, jump over the guard kind of.
But he does it with the underhook. And it's one of those things that you teach people to do. And then when you actually see it in a competitive finals match and it looks as good as it does at Jimenez hitting it, you're like, man, Jimenez is... It hammers home just how good Jimenez is. And again, Declan's a guy who made ADCC. Yeah. Went to ADCC. Roberto's a guy that's won trials, been to ADCC.
And trains a B team.
Yeah, with Nicky Rod and other guys. Like it puts the level into perspective to see Roberto be able to hit a pass like that at that level. Really, really impressive. And then to cap it off, we had Roberto Jimenez hits the Rotola team. Yeah. He hits that arm in, rear naked choke from behind. But his setup, you picked up some interesting stuff on his setup. His setup is actually, he sets it up kind of like a head and arm from mount.
Yeah, when he gets his chair set, because he's going to take the back, as he starts to do that is when he kind of laces his arm in, and he kind of gets the choke before he sits back with it, which means it probably cranks the living shit out of you.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Your neck probably goes...
It looks more like... He's almost doing it more like a Darce. Yeah. Which makes sense, again, when we see the Rotola brothers do it. But
it's like on the wrong side.
Yeah. And
it's like a backwards Darce.
It seems like it starts... It looks like a Darce. Yeah. But it starts off like a head and arm choke from mount that you just sort of chair sit off of. And it's a really interesting choke. The mechanics of it seem really interesting. Declan very quickly taps, goes, no. And taps here. But again, it is interesting to see this technique kind of come into, not prominence is the right word, but we're seeing it way more often than we used to see it. Yeah. And it is a very interesting technique.
We're also seeing a lot more of Roberto than we've seen before.
Yeah, dude's competing every single weekend in the gi and no gi. That's like... Yeah. That's crazy. So that was a really fun match. We have a lot of matches to cover today, so wanted to pull a match that was really interesting that we saw that actually has good back and forth in IBJJF and No Gi, and has two very notable guys. That now we're seeing Roberto more in absolute. It wouldn't surprise me to see more and more big guy not big guy jiu-jitsu, but Roberto doing more jiu-jitsu to big guys because man, the way that he moves around the guys that are in the weight classes 1 and 2 weight classes above him is really, really interesting. He moves like a much, much smaller guy, and he doesn't seem to have lost a ton of that like scramble and speed since going up from 170 to 200, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Most guys tend to lose a ton of speed. Roberto has, and he's also still young and still like really kind of in his entering his athletic prime.
Yeah.
It is just very interesting. Anything else on that, Miranda?
No.
All right, let's see. What else do we have? So let's move into the preview section. Or we also have one more pit submission that happened on February 28th in Denver. We had Caio Barrinho. I can never get Caio's last name. Barrinho, the Fighting Nerds.
Yeah.
Versus Brendan Allen. This was Caio really imposing a nice game for the majority of the sequences.
Yes.
A lot of it was standing, but if you tab through it, you can see the sequences. Brendan Allen initially in the first round takes an okay shot, not a bad shot. That Caio counters with what you thought was a 10-finger, like a modified 10-finger maybe, or
it wasn't like a guillotine because he didn't take the. I'm trying to think how to explain this. When you go to get a guillotine, you need to take all the space away, and your arm needs to be up against them. Mm-hmm. But there's certain guillotines or certain chokes you can get where you can kind of grab
like
the
a
chin.
go-go or a 10-finger. It's like you're pushing their head into your body as opposed to into the armpit.
Yeah,
or like a Peruvian.
Or you're like using your hands to kind of like cup the chin and cup the neck and go into the neck. So you don't need that like tight carotid kind of like constriction, because he didn't really have his hands together, but you couldn't really tell because, it's a jiu-jitsu match. And when you grab those kind of guillotines and such, it's not, always the easiest thing to tell where your hands are, because it's not like you have a camera right beside you.
It was a really interesting hand position. Then he kind of pulls it back in a way where I thought he was almost going to go Peruvian, but Brendan Allen keeps the leg in the center there to prevent Caio from being able to make the bigger angle he would need to throw like the arm in guillotine, or to get his leg over for the Peruvian, or to even roll him over to the top position.
Yeah.
It was the biggest piece of round one. Then there's more kind of counter offense from Caio in the later round, into the second round. Or sorry, this is only 2 rounds, right?
Yeah, it only goes 2 rounds.
Yeah, and the second round, Brendan Allen takes him down briefly, and then Caio is on top and on the back and very much dictating the majority of the sequences.
Caio takes him down at one point, too.
Caio takes him down as well.
He takes him down like straight into the pit.
Yeah. Pretty decent activity. I think it's very clearly Caio win here by decision. Again, we've had some kind of questions for exactly how pit submission does their judging, but this one was very cut and dry, with Barrinho having both the better offense, better defense, and the more activity, where it was like very straight. You said Brendan Allen was a late replacement for this one.
He was, because remember it was going to be the gentleman from Arkansas.
It was
wound up saying that he looked too feminine in the picture.
Yeah. That was those 2 guys. Okay,
right?
Well, yeah, I think so.
I think it was supposed to be the 2 of them.
Regardless, Brendan Allen jumped in, but again, Caio looked really good. And I like covering pit submission because they have interesting matchups and they bring interesting fighters into the fold. Also, it's one of the only organizations that has a pit.
Yep.
And so with CJI, I'm guessing we're going to see quintet in a pit. I just like seeing how more and more people deal with fighting in a pit. So let's move on to the preview section. Real quick, we have Bia Mesquita. She is currently 3-0, fighting Hope Chase at LFA. Coming up on Thursday, March 6th, so this weekend.
Also in Vegas.
Yeah, also in Vegas.
Yeah, they're both on Thursday night in Vegas, which is interesting.
Yeah, be a multiple-time world champion, Hope Chase. You have a note here, 20-time karate champ.
That's what it said. That's what I read, and she was 4-2, but they're like, she won 20 championships in karate, and I'm like, I don't even know how
many jiu-jitsu titles Bia won? So, again, Bia's 3-0 currently. We've been kind of watching. Again, as MMA, as jiu-jitsu people transition to MMA, usually the first couple of fights we follow them in, just because it's very interesting to see if they kind of make it a career, or if they, do 1 or 2.
Or if they're like, oh, no.
They go, no, I do not like this.
Yeah.
So that is previews. let's move on to the preview for the Fight Pass Invitational. Again, we talked about Nicky Rod versus Victor Hugo. Last week, it was the entirety of the show. This would be their fourth match. Their original match took place in like 2020 at Fight to Win 135.
Yeah.
Then they had a match in 2021 at Third Coast Grappling 6. Then they had a match at Who's Number One. Victor Hugo has taken all of them either by points or golden score. I think it'll be a very exciting, very interesting main event, to say the least. This was going to be Ffion Davies versus Adele Fornarino, but Ffion is out with a shoulder injury. Talked about that last week as well. That sucks. That is the match to make. I hope they rebook that match because, again, we last saw these two go at it in 2022.
Yeah.
Adele has really improved her game significantly since that 2022 matchup, and Ffion has looked better than ever recently, so it would be very interesting to see those two go at it and just where they are in their careers. It is a matchup I want to see. So after the main event, we have another rematch. We have Renato Canuto versus Oliver Taza. This is a rematch from ADCC 2019. We watched it on the pre-show.
Yep.
I was mat side for this, so that was awesome.
Where were you?
I was on you can see the cameras facing like all the athletes. Yeah. I'm in the side corner there.
Okay.
During this match. Yeah, I'm not on the camera here, but I know where I was in this match. This was really Canuto in the driver's seat, the majority. So let's talk about the two guys, Renato Canuto and Oliver Taza. Since 2019, these two guys have not significantly changed their games.
Not really.
They've both gotten a little older, and I think slowed down a little bit.
And I think they're a little wiser, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
They're not, both of them have tendency to go after things that are a little more, I won't want to say less conservative, a little crazier than normal. Mm-hmm. Like, Renato with like the flying everything you could ever imagine,
and scissor leg takedowns,
and Oliver with the crazy
leg
entries and the 5 million different things you can do with your legs. And both of them have tendency to take those risks a lot, but I think both of them over the years have learned when it's possible to do that and when it's not.
Yeah, they also,
best situation.
You watch guys move into the upper echelon of black belts, and this was not their first entrance in, but this is like both guys earlier career, again 6 years ago, where they both hadn't been on the world stage as long, and you saw both of them very much willing to just gun for it all the time, with Canuto, that being kind of the main framework of his game. He gets the jump on a lot of Oliver Taza's entries. He's in front. He never lets Taza continue to like lock him down. Reminds me almost a little bit of how Jay Rodriguez deals with a lot of positions where it's like, you can be going for something on him, but he's kind of consistently moving and never giving you a static target to fight against. And as a result, he gets out of a lot of stuff, and that's in this match.
I think there's a little bit of a difference between him and like and J-Rod, because if you listen to Renato talk about it, like he does do a lot of movement to get people out of their comfort zone, but at the same time, like, he's doing that movement for reasons. Like, he's turning his leg a certain direction so that Taza can't do X. Yeah. Where I think J-Rod is still
a lot of instinct.
Yeah, is still new enough and young enough that he's doing it because that's what he's doing, not without a lot of, it's more of a reactionary kind
as a part of a rote process that I'm like,
exactly.
I'm funneling you to a direction.
Yeah, I think Canuto has a little more
thought process and purpose in a lot of pieces of his game.
Well, and it's just two different different ways of game planning. Mm-hmm. Let's say it that way.
So in the first match here, we have Taza. My biggest, I'm going to call it an issue, not issue really, is like Taza's game, even 2019 onward, is a very known quantity. You know exactly what Oliver Taza wants to do. You know, when he was with DDS, when he was with New Wave, when he was like, when Taza's game, when he's a TriStar, has really looked the same. He wants to go underneath you. He wants to play from like a leg position. He wants to go up. He wants to hit the knee bar. He wants to hit the heel hook on the outside. Yeah, that's really what he'll hit the hook on the inside too, but he really wants it on the outside. Like, that is where he wants to funnel the game.
But I mean, he does have more of a game than that, because we have seen him open up and we've seen him pass. We've seen him do other things, but for whatever reason,
given his druthers, and here
Yeah.
he loses the match on a negative because he pulls guard in the overtime, and
Canuto takes him down.
and Canuto gets 2
Yeah.
for taking him down
Yeah.
there. But even without the points, if it goes to decision, it is very clearly a Canuto win.
Yeah.
Canuto is the one initiating a lot of the positions, countering as well as countering, and very frequently in this match, forcing Taza to get his guard back, forcing Taza to, getting over
the
his hips,
whole,
crushing him down.
half, beginning 3 minutes, 5 minutes. How long are these matches?
8.
So the first 4 minutes of this match is Taza trying to invert under Canuto jumping his back and staying there. That is the entirety of the first part of the match.
There's a huge back take sequence there. And Canuto repeatedly can't get the points for Oliver's back, but even the first, when the regulation time ends, literally it is Canuto punching hooks in and holding them for 1.5 seconds when he needs them for 3 to get points. Canuto is in the driver's seat very clearly here. And the problem I think with Oliver's game is that Oliver is a good passer. He's he can do. We've seen him win trials. He can do it, but because he is such a known quantity, a guy like Canuto who has already faced him, already beaten him, and the game that he used to beat. Again, it's the exact same problem as the Victor Hugo and Nicky Rod.
Yeah.
It's Victor Hugo doesn't really have to make a lot of adjustments to his game to beat Nicky Rod because what he is doing consistently has worked to beat Nicky Rod. Nicky Rod needs to make adjustments, and he has to do that to beat Victor Hugo, in the same way that Oliver Taza will need to make adjustments and changes to his game to beat Renato Canuto. And I just don't think we have really ever consistently seen that from Oliver Taza, where it's he wants to, especially in the Fight Pass Invitational, he's going to pull. He's not going to wrestle for a long period of time because Canuto is a very comfortable pressure and at speed wrestler that Taza's never been comfortable with. Taza's improved his wrestling because he has to win ADCC trials. Yeah. But even then, Taza's a guy that is willing to pull on you and take the negative and work for it. Yeah. He has alwaes been that guy. He was that guy in 2019. He was that guy in 2022. He's willing to work from the bottom. Canuto will keep a higher pace, will keep more activity, will throw more stuff at Taza.
Plus, it's his home turf.
Plus, you're at altitude.
You're
and you're at home.
You're at home in Vegas, where Canuto lives.
And Canuto's coming off a win over PJ Barch.
And I bet you he's going to have the entire place with his people.
Yeah, he's going to be comfortable at home. It's a really odd match. I'm trying to think of Taza's method for victory here. It's I don't think, based on I'm looking back at this 2019 match, even though it was 6 years ago, it's not a great. I don't like to lean into matches that are more than 2 years old. Yeah. But for this one, I just don't think the styles of either guy has really changed. Canuto is still a really aggressive presser, wrestler, fighter that will jump for stuff and has very, very good hip movement to take your back and roll around you. And that has always kind of troubled Oliver Taza when he has a really mobile guy that he can't lock down and he can't execute a very direct sequence on to go all the way through to get the leg lock he wants. You also know Canuto knows where he wants to be. Yeah. So I think stylistically this is a really tough match for Taza to take. Canuto has all those things working in his favor. Plus, I don't think he needs to change anything.
Plus, think about the what we were talking about last week with Nicky Rod and Victor Hugo. In the event they go to overtime, it goes into points. How's Taza getting points on you?
That's my. I mean,
he's gonna sweep you. He's gonna pull, which I don't think you can pull in overtime. No, you can.
You can pull. There's no negative.
You can pull in overtime. So he's gonna have to sweep you, and I don't know if.
Can he settle Canuto?
I don't think so because I don't think he's unless you have to. You
have to settle him for 3. I don't see a world in which Oliver Taza can consistently wrestle down Renato Canuto in a way that scores him points. Yeah. Taza has to sub Canuto here, and Canuto is hard to get subbed.
And he has to do a fast, fast sub.
And Taza's a great finisher, but we've just seen, this is a rough matchup for him, and I think that Canuto takes this cleanly on either decision or points. I just don't see a method for Taza in his game that would have him winning this without a change to his game or a misstep from Canuto, which Taza can absolutely force. I just don't see it happening. I would be surprised to have Oliver Taza winning this, especially given their history and how one-sided that match was, and how much those guys' games look the same. In like a weird kind of way. Like most guys 6 years later, especially early career, like Taza and Canuto were kind of at ADCC 2019. Not early careers. That's a bad way to put that. But earlier, 6 years prior, you know, their games have both refined and not necessarily developed or changed as much as you would expect from a lot of the folks that we cover on the show. So let's talk about anything else on this match.
Nope.
Talk about rules. So we have the rules. They are the exact same rules as the last time for the last Fight Pass Invitational. The biggest thing here is judging criteria. It's judged on 3 pieces: initiation of effective action, basically who is pushing the pace. Very similar to ADCC. The person that is initiating the sequences, the person that is doing the work. If I initiate a takedown and you counter with an Uchimata and we kind of scramble, even if the Uchimata looks pretty good, the person initiating that takedown to create that sequence is rewarded for it. So basically, if you go out on a limb and you're the one that's pushing forward and making the action happen, the rule set is going to reward you for that, which I like because it allows the guy that is actually doing stuff to win. If you play a counter game, really tough for you to win, but also, as atWNO says, you should be doing more. Like, do more. And this rule set, I think, it facilitates that, and I like it. It's, again, very similar verbiage to the way the ADCC does their criteria for action. Next one, second item, is positional control and submission attempts. So you're controlling a guy, great, that is worth something, and you're trying to submit him. That's what they are looking to have you do. That is also going to get you a criteria for the judges. Like, hey, you're initiating and you're looking for submissions. Those are the 2 largest criteria they're looking. The third one, which I think is reasonable, is duration of control. So if you north-south a guy the entire match, like, you can win that way. But if that guy suddenly throws up a knee bar at the end of the match, well, it is very possible that those submission attempts potentially will take it over, which I like. And he's also initiated that action. Like, I do like that because it rewards doing something with a position that you get. And like, you can hold a position. Yes, if it's an even match, the guy that holds mount will win the match. But if you're just holding mount and the other guy has been doing stuff to progress the match, and you sit in mount and don't do anything with mount, I like that they give it to the guy that was doing something in the match.
They're doing that so that you don't get the really boring one person sits in one position for an entire match. Matches, which
can happen. Again, I've always talked about that being a rule set issue more than that being an athlete issue. It's like, hey man, whatever the athlete needs to do to win, that is their prerogative. That's what they're supposed to be doing. That's in your rules, what you want them to win.
Especially at a higher black belt level, sometimes they can stall each other out because neither of them really want to do anything, but one of them has a better position. The other one doesn't want to give up position, so it gets this weird stalematiness that this at least creates. And they do start negatives at some point.
For different things,
and it's always been a little weird with negatives, but hopefully they're better.
It's very similar to ADCC in a way you understand. The only difference here, the big difference, is pretty much everything here is worth 2 points. So passing the guard, 2 points. Sweeps and reversals, 2 points. I like that they include reversals. So like a chest to chest, if you go from bottom side control to top side control, typically in a lot of rule sets that is not scored. It's like, again, like ADCC, that is scored. That is 2 points. So basically any chest to chest contact, either by sweep through a guard or a reversal, you get 2 points. If you go chest to back, like, you can't get anything from there. It's non-scoring, but reversals are scored. Knee on belly is 2 points. Takedown is 2 points. Mount is 4 points. And I think we saw this last time. Back mount, which I assume is also mount and back mount, is 4 points, probably 2.
Yeah.
They don't have it listed here explicitly, but it said mounted position,
well,
which I assume is front mount and back mount.
Yeah, it's something that I've seen in a lot more like different rule sets is where they allow you don't have to have your hooks in if you're sitting on someone's back.
Yeah, that flat mounted position.
Yeah, you don't have to like dig your hooks in that position.
Right. I think ADCC. I need to go look at that actually.
I think in ADCC you used to have to do it because I remember that rule from the Opens because
we did the rules meetings.
In one of my matches I was trying to dig my feet in, and I wound up. I mean, it wasn't bad. I won on points, but like I didn't sub her because I was more concerned with getting my feet in, my hooks in to get points. And then my second match, somebody was like, "Hey, why don't you just grab her head and choke her? She's belly down." And I was like, "Oh, I don't have to worry about hooks, you know."
That makes sense.
And it made sense. So, or maybe I completely missed, but I remember competing for them and that being.
I'll look into it again.
Something that my brain thought about.
I've judged so many matches for them, but it's been probably 2 years
Yeah.
now. I need to want to go back and refresh myself. Negative points can be given at any time. I like how they do negative points personally. I am the minority here by far. I like more negative points, especially when people are slow and action's not going on. Negative can be given at any point in the match, so regulation or overtime.
Yeah, I think it depends. It depends on what they're doing, because sometimes some people are a little too. There's been some matches where I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like, why you giving them 20? They don't need to get 20.
I just like that we're changing the sport to require more activity, because I think the sport needed a kick in that direction a couple of years ago. And I like that, hey man, the body lock pass you are doing will be effective in 10 minutes to pass them one time.
Yeah.
But that is not a technique in a sporting context that we're going to allow you to use, because it is not progressing the match quick enough. One guy in basketball can't just hold the ball for 10 minutes. You have to be doing something. There's a rule to do that in all sports. I like that jiu-jitsu is sort of getting out of its own way and going, yeah, man, you actually have to be progressing and moving towards the finish of the match, because that is the point. That is why we're here.
Yeah.
Yes, in these streets, I can hold you and body lock you for 10 minutes, and that's a valuable way. But like we're doing a sport, there are additional constraints put on the sport.
But the police are going to show up at some point, so.
There's that. You can also slam out of subs, which is, again, it's basically an ADCC rule set, which is good, which I like.
But it's a fully applied technique.
Yeah, it can't be like you gotta be getting choked, you gotta be getting armbarred, which I like. That should be. I like that rule in these pro events. For amateur events, I don't really like it, but for pro events, when there's money on the line, if a guy is letting you like slam him out of a sub. Yeah. I like that is on the table, because it fosters people having really
I've never
good
seen
technique.
this rule before. Grabbing of the ears.
Yeah, you can't. A lot of wrestlers will do it for cauliflower. You can grip on the other side of the ear. You can grip on the inside of the ear.
Especially if they're all like big, like
cauliflower ear. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of guys recently have been doing it much more. They've been cupping at the ear.
Oh, maybe I'll do that. maybe that'll be a new Miranda move.
But I like that they're specifically banning it, because it's like kind of, I've always found it kind of dirty, and it's like, hey man, your fingers are in my ears. That's an orifice. Don't do that.
But sometimes, you gotta do what you gotta do.
So those are the rules. That is Renato Canuto and Oliver Taza. Let's move on to another rematch. Elisabeth Clay versus Brianna Ste-Marie. They've gone against each other at least twice. We have Who's Number 120, where Clay wins a referee's decision.
Twice as black belts.
Yeah, and then a whole jump as the lower belts.
Yeah.
Brianna, I think, they both talked about like all the earlier belts. And
I think they went against each other a bunch of times.
They both kind of flippantly go, that's the lower belt. Like we don't. Yeah. That was an older match. Like we'll talk about this match. I think before the first match, one of them was very complimentary and like, that's an old match. Like it's not like she's different now.
Yeah.
Because I think they were trying to go. I forget who it was, Elisabeth or Brianna. They were both like very nice in interviews.
Yeah.
But the interviewer, you could tell, was trying to kind of goad them into like talking some shit about, I've already beat them once and this. Yeah. And they were like, she's a different woman now. That was many years ago. We were at the lower belt. It was a purple belt match.
I can't really see Brianna Ste-Marie talking shit about.
But I think it was like that. It was like somebody had
she
beat
just
someone
doesn't
at
have
purple
that
belt.
kind of. She doesn't have that kind of personality to do that.
They both went. Yeah, they're a different person now. So recently at black belt, we have that win by Clay via rest decision at IBJJF No Gi Worlds 2024. So this last year, Brianna Ste-Marie finishes a rear naked choke on Elisabeth Clay.
Yeah, in the open class.
Yeah, in open, because these are Clay is closer to Brianna's weight now.
Yeah.
Clay was historically bigger.
Well, she's
gotten smaller, and I had the babies.
Yeah, they're both going to be
smaller.
They're both going to be 145, but I think Brianna's not 145.
No.
Yeah. I think she's in the 130s.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think she's not huge.
Yeah, but Clay's normally in the 150s, so it's really not, especially when you do day before weigh-ins. I don't think it's
Yeah, I think Clay will be a little bigger here, but really Clay has come down significantly in weight. I think Clay can now make like 35, if I recall correctly.
I don't think so.
Maybe not for baby.
She's still doing middleweight.
Middleweight's
150.
Maybe I'm wrong about that.
152
in the gi
or something like that.
Okay. So regardless, you on the pre-show were
Something
talking
like
about
that.
this, and you kind of think it looks really similar with
Yeah.
Brianna being able to potentially take the back and get points again.
Yeah, the only side note is that was an open class qualifier, and for No Gi Worlds, your open class comes before your bracket, so you're not
For black belts.
For black belts,
Because at lower belts, you have to win
To
you
get
have
in.
Medal, you have to medal in your division to get a
Yeah.
slot in. For black belts, because it's just open registration.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you earned it as a black belt to go compete in absolute.
Yeah.
It happens before.
and if they don't show up for it, they get taken out of their bracket.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Sometimes I look at the matches and for open class and I'm like, maybe it's just a warm up for you. And like you might do things that you generally wouldn't do in a match.
Or you're in there to just like, hey, man,
Yeah.
let me give it a shot because I'm here.
Yeah.
And it's like, you'll find a lot of black belts will not, a lot of them, like, they're all world-class competitors. They're there to win, obviously, but they will go into absolute with like, hey, I'm here anyway.
Yeah.
Willing to kind of like look, like see
except
how
for
it falls out.
except when you come up against it wasn't Isamrita. It was a Unity gentleman, Bones. Devontae, who hurt himself in the open class and then wound up pulling from his bracket at 2024 No Gi Worlds.
Yeah, I remember that.
He hurt himself in open, but he was in finals, and so he pulled himself out of his bracket because he wanted to win the open class finals.
Which is so funny.
Which is like the opposite of what most people
But it's
normally.
also, the Open's technically more prestigious depending on
But
the
he's
year.
also a heavyweight, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's the same. It's not the same
Yeah.
as
Adele Fornarino wins it, and you're like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. You're in
Yeah.
the lowest weight class for women. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Bones win it. It's like, yeah, man, you're at heavyweight anyway. Like, it's impressive. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it is less impressive than, like, Mikey coming in and winning.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you thought it went the same way. Clay has looked really, really good. I don't want to take Clay out of this, and we're not taking her out
Yeah.
of it, but the way that Brianna was able to kind of game plan around what Clay wanted to do and the way that she takes her back, I don't want to say this very often on the show, it looks repeatable.
Yeah, and
it looks like something in Brianna's game that I was like, she can create this sequence based on what Clay wants to do again.
I also feel like Clay plays a very specific game that kind of like Taza in that how's she going to get points on Brianna Ste-Marie? You're going to have to probably take her back, like try to leg lock and it doesn't work and try to take her back off of it. But she does sweep, but she doesn't really, she sweeps into legs or she'll
do the knee bar sweep up the top. Like Clay has a good back. She has some stuff that she can work and she can win on points. She can get mount and she can crush people down. I think if Clay wins, that's most likely what it's going to be. Is she's going to be Brianna playing the guard, Clay being able to get out of the guard with either a leg lock or a wrestle up or come up, and then get to mount from that and score points late into the match. Again, potentially can take it back, but I think both women want to play guard. I think Brianna Ste-Marie is the stronger guard player because that's also like the thing that Brianna's known for. Like she is known as a guard player. Clay plays the guard and plays through to go to other things.
But she plays like a more open guard. Brianna Ste-Marie plays like a closed,
like an old school closed guard.
Yeah.
And I just think I'm curious if she will be able to keep the level of activity that she needs to not get penalties in this rule set. That's my only concern.
Who?
Brianna. She's not typically a slow fighter, but that's my only concern here is she going to move at a pace that she needs to move in order to get the points?
She'll probably have Fornarino in her corner too.
Probably, which is good good backing to have. I just think Brianna can outpoint Clay.
Yeah.
She has the ability because recently she can submit Clay as well. But I just think that her game works better, although Clay is going to be bigger. I think Brianna's game works a little better stylistically against Clay, against the guard that Clay wants to play. Being able to make something happen and play out of the open guard that Clay wants to play, or pull Clay into a closed guard game that you want to play and force Clay out of that and force her to give up points there.
Yes.
Okay. So next match, we have Ronaldo Junior versus Felipe Costa. Miranda and I just commentated a Felipe Costa match at Copa Elite 4 here in Virginia a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And goddamn, Felipe Costa looks good. I've had the pleasure of commentating a couple of his matches back when every time he's won a Copa Elite. Zach and I commentated some matches when he won a big cash prize division when he was still a brown belt,
Yeah.
before he even won trials. Everyone was like, this guy's really, really good.
I think the only way that Ronaldo really wins is he has to slow Felipe down. Like,
Yeah.
significantly slow him down.
Which Ronaldo is not. Ronaldo plays a weird game. He is a burst fighter, but
well, he won against Nicky or J-Rod.
yeah.
So it's not like he's not willing to stand and wrestle and play that game. He just plays a slower, kind of like he lulls you in and then he like attacks you. Where Felipe is more of a
He plays a young man,
Yeah.
fast guy game.
Yeah. So I mean, we might see Ronaldo try to slow him down, and then we see Felipe just like counter and just attack. But Ronaldo can pick it up too because we've seen
Yeah.
him in prior matches.
I mean, the guillotine on Zach Bahens.
Yeah.
He forces Bahens to take a bad shot.
Throwing
Boom, throws that guillotine.
throwing Garmo into the TV.
Yeah. The match with again, the match J-Rod.
Yeah.
Like Ronaldo is relatively consistent in what he brings to the
Well,
table.
he also comes from a team. Well, I mean, they both come from a team that knows how to play the system.
Yeah, Atos with
Yeah.
Ronaldo and the Six Blades with Felipe Costa.
Yeah.
I'm hot on Felipe Costa. That ADCC third place medal at 88 kilograms makes me want to pick Costa alone. I like his game. I've seen more of his game up person. I've got a chance to commentate his game. I've had to look more into his game when we were going to do commentary to better understand, so we can commentate better for him. I like where his game goes here. I think the activity that he tends to push when he bursts, he will be able to kind of not overwhelm Ronaldo, but I don't know how much he can get lulled into a pace that he doesn't want to fight at in the way that Ronaldo typically
But we
will.
did see, but it was in the gi, the last match we commentated.
Yeah, in Virginia.
But I remember watching Costa be like, oh shit, Costa's kind of slowed down right now. What the hell's gonna happen?
For about 15 seconds.
For about 15 seconds.
We both kind of went, is he slowing down? And then he like immediately stomps the gas and you go, yes, that's how this match was going to go. Okay. Very, very impressive performance in Virginia here.
Little orange.
Again, I hate making vibe picks, Miranda. That's kind of your job on the show.
What?
Felipe Costa. Felipe Costa on a vibe pick. I just think the way... I'm trying to think of like a technical reason that I would prefer to pick Felipe Costa over Ronaldo Junior. I understand Ronaldo Junior's game.
Yeah.
I have always thought Ronaldo Junior's game in these kind of rule sets
He has your game.
beatable.
He has your game.
I play way more active.
I'm going to... Well, you are more active, but I'm going to grab your head.
I'm going to grab your head.
I'm going to squish your head.
I'm going to squish your head. Yeah. That is a bit of the game
So,
I play.
I mean, Little Orange has been doing it long enough that he should know, Ronaldo is going.
Yeah, but so is Zach
Is it Ronaldo or Ronaldo?
I was calling Ronaldo Jr.
Okay. Ronaldo.
I don't know why I call him Ronaldo Jr., not Ronaldo, but I think for some reason he's Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I don't know why I think that, because I think he is Brazilian,
Yeah, I think so too.
but I think he actually is Ronaldo.
Okay.
But now I'm second guessing
Ronaldo.
myself and so confused.
I know, I just call
We've
him-
only been covering him for 8 years. So,
We mess up everybody's name, so it's okay.
do you have any technical reasons that you want to pick Felipe Costa other than we just saw him in Virginia and it was very, very impressive? Again, not quite at the caliber of athlete that Ronaldo Jr. is, but his passing looks smooth even in the gi. Like the way that he can open up your guard and get past and overwhelm you is always impressive.
I think so. If we think about the last match and we think of Ronaldo Junior versus J-Rod, right? Ronaldo won. He won because of submission attempts, activity, and kind of stuffing the takedowns, right?
Yeah. Had a more impressive wrestling game than I thought he would have. Although, again, J-Rod was beating him clearly in the
Well,
wrestling.
and the other problem is we also, afterwards, you heard that J-Rod was like sick for like weeks prior to that, which you wonder if Ronaldo got it right after he got it. But maybe not. Costa, I think, skill-wise and ability-wise is better than J-Rod. Because he's been training since he was the Little Orange.
I mean, didn't J-Rod get second at ADCC and Felipe got third?
Oh, did he beat him?
He beat him.
Oh,
I
shit.
think different.
Well then,
But
No.
no, but to the point, I don't
Yeah.
disagree with your point. The way that their games are constructed, J-Rod is a force in what he brings to the table for wrestling.
Yeah.
Like he has attributes that are special, which can put him up. But if you like skill for skill, Felipe Costa's process of game and like his thought process for like him being able to consistently make a solid game plan to beat an athlete, I would trust over J-Rod in J-Rod's ability to just like decide to win.
It's also a different rule set.
Yeah. I think this basically has come down to, do you think Felipe Costa could beat J-Rod? Is essentially what this comes down to. It's like, because again, all three of these guys are really close.
Yeah.
I think Felipe Costa beats Ronaldo Junior because the areas in which J-Rod struggled, he will not struggle.
Yeah.
Is really what it comes down to. The areas that J-Rod is good, he wasn't really able to make work for a scoring perspective to win over Ronaldo Junior.
But we also didn't see a 100% J-Rod.
Yeah.
So that's
for some reason, I also think that J-Rod, I thought he might have won this. I think is what I have in my notes.
What, that he won against Renato?
Yeah. I think I didn't like the decision.
Yeah, you didn't like the
Okay.
no one liked the decision, but Ronaldo, I mean, he's also Atos. And,
he is Atos, and so he gets the benefit of the team.
It's kind of how it works.
I take Felipe Costa here. I just think that, again, the areas of strength that he brings and the thought process for his game and the way that he is going to address Ronaldo's guard.
I'm going to go Costa too, but not very, like, begrudgingly.
All right, next one we got Andy Murasaki versus Daniel Slatler. You have a note here. It's interesting. They were both at Atos for a while.
Yeah. Atos On Demand, for whatever reason today, just started putting up videos of them training together back when Andy was a black belt and Daniel was a purple belt. Like, all of a sudden the videos popped up and I was like, oh, that's weird.
I'm gonna go Murasaki.
Yeah.
Because only Murasaki, the
only person that beats Murasaki is
Tynan
Yep.
and Mika.
Yep.
Only person.
And maybe the one guy that beat Tynan the one time.
Jason Gomez.
Yeah, maybe.
Or the rules.
Yeah.
I hate that that's our decision here, but yeah.
Well,
it's really,
Andy's also been a black belt a lot longer.
He's been a black belt a lot longer, and also the way that Murasaki is consistent.
Yeah.
And Daniel has like great performance, amazing sub.
Yeah.
Okay performance, great performance. Like he is a little hot and cold, whereas Murasaki is very consistent.
I think that's his personality too. Mm-hmm. He does not seem like the easiest person to get along with. Mm-hmm. So it also depends if he is angry or not.
Yeah. I like.
But they used to train together, and that's also something to think about, because if you were an up and coming like lower belt and you had this black belt who used to beat the shit out of you every single day of your life, you either rise up and beat the shit out of them, or you let them kill you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Be a very interesting kind of like
mentally. It has to be an interesting thing, which made me wonder, like, did Atos put those videos up of him getting smushed by Andy just to you gotta
kind of wonder. Again, we don't talk about it a lot on the show, but I think it is less of an intangible than you would think of, like where an athlete's mind and mentality is. We talk about it a lot in MMA, but in jiu-jitsu we tend to not, and I do think it does play a larger factor than we kind of consider
1000%,
in the show a lot of times. Because again, a lot of times athletes after will talk about, man, I just wasn't in it that match.
And if you do jiu-jitsu long enough, everybody has someone in the gym that they do not like. I mean,
like how you're making this a feud match, Miranda.
It's a feud because you're talking about a school that he used to, because Sattler doesn't go to Atos anymore. He goes, he's Alliance now, isn't he?
Yeah, but people can leave on good terms, Miranda. It's possible.
I don't know. Atos doesn't seem to. Yeah, if you they seem to have some beefs when they leave, but
I think Murasaki, from a technical perspective, I think Murasaki takes this. But again, they would not, with your kind of thought process, it wouldn't surprise me.
And
it would surprise me.
Daniel's had some interesting matches recently. Mm-hmm. The last, he was on Who's Number One, and he was on the last Fight Pass Invitational. Yeah. And they were both grudge matches also, when you think about it. So he's had a lot of matches. I wonder if he's just the guy who's like, hey, I want this guy. Eventually. I wonder if this is, his game, which, I mean.
Who's your pick here?
I'm going to go Murasaki.
Okay. Next one we got Sarah Galval versus Cassiamora. I love this matchup. This is a battle of the rising up-and-comers, your new black belts, essentially. Sarah Galval, daughter of Andre Galval, one of the greatest to ever do it. Cassiamora, Bruno Bastos, black belt, went from blue belt to black belt in less than 1 year, or like 1 year and 2 days or something like that.
Yeah, like 2 cycles?
one cycle.
One cycle.
Because she won gi, no gi, and the rules for IBJJF are you can go up to the next belt.
Yeah.
If you win a world championship, she won a bunch of world championships back to back. Foregoing the full cycle, so only doing a half cycle, winning it in the gi, winning it in no gi, winning it in the gi, winning it in no gi. She's gotten to black belt, looked very, very good, but has not had the immediate success that she was having at the lower belts. Sarah Gavao, brand new black belt or brown belt still?
She's a brown belt still.
Brown belt still.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen her at black belt yet.
I don't think so either, but I know she's a brown belt.
No, I haven't seen her at black belt.
This is a interesting match. It's a prospect match. It really is like, can Prodigy Sarah Gavao, who has had some great matches and who has been starting to get the professional push from Atos and Andre and Angelica Gavao, beat the up-and-comer Cassia Mora?
Yeah.
I think that Sarah Gavao beats her. I've been impressed with both of their games, but you can tell that they are both very raw in some of their approaches for some of their matches. They both tend to take a safe route for things.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go Sarah Gavao here. Having Cassia Mora win this would not surprise me either. But again, this is really a prospect. This is a straight-up prospect match. You have a brand new black belt who was a blue belt a year and a half ago versus Sarah Gavao, who has come up through every single kid's belt that exists and is now an adult brown belt.
And has lived the jiu-jitsu life.
Lived from Atos when
Well, I mean,
Atos
Cassia
was
Mora
the biggest camp.
Cassia Mora has too, but
Well, not reached blue belt. Like,
yeah.
And did some child's belts too there, but like big shift very
But
quickly.
there's also a difference in, I think, didn't Cassia come up in like Brazil?
I don't know.
And Sarah, I think, came up in
San Diego.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Sarah here,
yeah.
but neither surprises
I'm going
me.
to go Cassia Mora here.
This is a benchmarking match, and I'm very curious. Speaking of benchmarking matches, next match, Maggie Grandotti versus Helena Cravar. I like Grandotti's game.
At 145.
At 145, which is both about the
Yeah,
way.
that's about right.
Maggie Grandotti Lira has a really interesting place in her division because she is the gatekeeper to the elite. Maggie Grandotti, very similar to Cassia Mora and Sarah Gavao. Won blue belt worlds, purple belt worlds, brown belt worlds, gets black belt as a little bit of an older grappler, like early, I think 30 or early 30s. And then suddenly struggles a little bit moving into black belt, has a camp change, like some other things go on.
And then she did the really awkward, like taking her rash guard off to.
Then she retired.
To retire.
And it's a saga. But Grandotti is, if you can beat Grandotti, you can go compete with the elite of the elite. If you are unable to beat Grandotti, then you still need usually more time to develop. But it's a gate. Grandotti is this perfect gatekeeper for this division where it's like, hey, if you can get past her and get her past her cleanly, then you are probably ready for elite, like the elite world ranked top level black belts in that division. If you can't, then like that's where you sit. So I really like, we don't have a lot of these folks in grappling.
Yeah.
And I love the role that Grandotti fills as like the veteran now, older, experienced grappler man, it's hard to beat. I do think Cravar is.
I think the only people that have really been giving Cravar a problem, or she hasn't been able to sub, have been 1 or 2 weight classes larger than her. Mm-hmm. Like she's had problems with the brown and black belt ladies that are like, let's say like 160 and up.
Yeah.
Then she can't.
And the fight to win match at open weight.
She can't really. She still is in the driver's seat, but she doesn't have as much control as she normally does.
That's kind of why I'm interested in this match because Cravar takes silver at ADCC.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off. You can take it.
But Grandotti isn't going to have it. The only thing, Grandotti might be
I think Grandotti is definitely stronger.
I mean, she's going to be stronger than her.
Because Grandotti is jacked.
But she's still 145 pounds.
Yeah. I think that this match could potentially be a lot more competitive than people think. I think Cravar is going to come through and win because, again, she's your ADCC silver medalist. We've seen now enough tape on Cravar. We're starting to see women like Nia Blackman, other women kind of get over her guard, don't get triangled, set her down in her guard, and Cravar kind of runs out of ideas a little bit. We then also see Cravar and Polaris put on incredible performances over top-level women.
And we also see her coaching. Danaher isn't a very talkative coach.
No.
During matches. Like, he's not one that's going to sit there and if he sees you struggling, like, he might say one or two things at you, but he's not the type that's going to get in your head and tell you how to change that. I don't feel like he does that. Like, at least when I've seen him coach live, he says like 2 words and that's it. And he's very quiet, and you don't even realize he's there unless he's there.
Very quiet.
And then all of a sudden he's there and you're like, because he's there. But I don't know. I almost feel like if she had a coach that, like, in those, you know, like
to give her to put the ideas
like
in her head.
Nia Blackman has, like, and I don't even know who her coach is because she's, I think, European checkmat, who, like, literally screams, like, at the top of her lungs the entire match. I almost feel like if Cravar had somebody like that in those moments, we would have a lot more. She would change what she was doing. And we have watched her do that because
she can play top. She can do it. We just have these matches very frequently where sometimes she'll she'll just be unable to get something going, make a bad decision. You kind of go, I don't know where this match is going.
And I'm trying to think, one of the last ones she actually did change what she was doing.
The Polaris match.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks ago, a couple weeks ago. She can do it. It's, if Grindotti starts to get pushed over early in this match, I think Cravar can take this handily. If Grindotti is a force in front of Cravar and avoids the sweep, avoids the mount, avoids getting kind of pushed down by Cravar, Grindotti is a very live dog in this fight to take this because Grindotti is a good game planner and is a veteran. And Cravar is still occasionally subject to making, like, she's 18, 17.
Yeah.
Like, making younger person mistakes in, like, the level of experience she has in these.
She's 18.
She's 18 now. But again, you're 18. Like, Grindotti's in her mid-30s. Has been doing this for 15 years. Like, she's more inclined, I think, to have a veteran performance here versus Cravar, which occasionally we have seen have up and down performances.
Yeah.
If Cravar is on, Cravar, I think, beats Grindotti easily.
Yeah.
But if Grindotti can push Cravar into the same places that Nia Blackman did, or the woman that Fight to Win, like, push her into a place where she can't get something going, I think Grindotti has an avenue for victory here if she can just put enough pressure, not over pressure.
And I mean, and even if she just survives the entire, like, the first round and goes into overtime and then just freaking, like,
wrestles,
like, blast doubles her.
Yeah.
Like, or does something.
Grindotti doesn't have bad wrestling.
You know, that's what I mean. Or does something like that. You could see her get points up on her and maybe, you know, because she might be strong enough. Like, you know, in her Fight to Win match, she had the girl's arm all the way back, but she was strong enough. She just pulled her arm back, like, you're not taking that. You know what I mean?
Grindotti's a good lifter.
I feel like, I feel like
strong.
Grindotti is the same way. Like, it's going to take a lot to put her down.
Yeah.
You're going to have to.
But occasionally we can also, on the other hand, see Grindotti have a misstep. You look at Grindotti's record, it's a lot of losses, but those losses are like Amanda Lev and, like, like top echelon, elite level women in her division. But there's a lot of them. And so Grindotti is very beatable here. But I think Cravar can also, like, people are starting to now find where Cravar struggles in these matches. If Grindotti can do that, she can win. I do think Cravar takes this. I do think she probably ends up submitting Grindotti. So she ends up taking a decision over Grindotti for activity. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Grindotti win this.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to think. I think it's a sweep because I think that Helena's good with sweeping people. And I think even with someone being strong and being really good with position, if she can get underneath you, she can still sweep you. And it's not like Grindotti is the type that once she, like, she's not the type that when she's swept and her hips hit the mat, she's immediately up and fast. Yeah. Because she does have some age, you know. But she's never really had that style to begin with. She's had the
pressure from top, push her down. Like,
the medium,
she's going to impose on you, and that's been the game.
The medium to medium heavyweight woman game, which is I'm going to impose my strength upon you and make you suffer, you know. And so if Cravar could sweep her and get on top of her in the points period, I think that is where she goes if she finds that she can't sub her. But if she hits a choke on her, you know, choke's work on anybody.
Yeah. So again, I think this is a much more interesting match, and I think a lot of people have it planned out.
If Grindotti Grindotti needs she needs.
I would love to have Uday get a good win. Bring her
I would
back.
like to see the win, number one, and number two, pigtails. Like, come on, somebody needs to come out with the same pigtails that Helena has, and just like see if it messes with her head. You never know. That's what I was gonna do.
You were in the bracket with her once.
Yeah, I was like, if this happens, I'm going into pigtails.
So next match we have Achilles Rocha versus Nathan Haddad. Again, another one where we have hot and cold. If Achilles looks good, dude is on fire. Go look at his brown belt No Gi Worlds run. Looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then you look at his trials performances. And his trials for ADCC,
Well,
they're up and down. They're good, they're bad.
My other issue is like, how is dad?
Yeah, that's another question. Was like Wagner was going in and out of the hospital, had like heart failure, and like was touch and go for like.
I mean, that can put a fire in you, and then you like want to kill everybody, or that can really like beat up your psyche.
I think he's very close with his dad because his dad's been his coach for his entire year, and they're together all the time, and they look like they do stuff frequently as a family. Yeah, like that is a big X factor for like, hey man, how's Wagner been? How's his dad been?
Yeah,
and how's Achilles look? I am unfortunately thinking that Achilles has been very hot and cold with his performances. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me to see just a weird, odd performance out of Achilles. But again, also, he has the ones where, who's number one? He has the fastest sub now.
Yeah.
That armbar over the top of for Couch.
Yeah.
Like, not Nathan Couch, Cameron Couch.
Yeah.
Like, Nathan Haddad is another guy also that will have up and down performances.
But he did PGF more recently and had some, a lot of quality performances.
Subs.
Yeah, and subs. I mean, against guys that,
this is a weird one to pick.
It's weird because...
It's weird, but where are both guys at on the night?
Yeah.
I would be more... really what it is whoever shows up in the correct form looks good.
And whoever has the better game plan.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Nathan's not going to want to stand with Achilles.
No.
And there's no real benefit to stand with Achilles.
Right.
And then
when Nathan goes into the legs, Achilles has historically not been the strongest counter leg locker.
He also won't tap.
Because his legs are made of tape now. This is honestly, I am not going to pick this one because I think both guys have the tools to beat each other on any given night. If one guy shows up and the other doesn't, it will be very apparent as soon as they get up there. And if both of them show up, this is a real interesting match. I think Achilles takes it if both show up. But if Achilles has an off night, I think Nathan can stop him.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more positive matches come out of Haddad recently.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot of Achilles since the armbar over the top.
When he had his brown belt world's performance, when he got black belt.
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he? I forgot about that.
He looked really good there, but again, then you look at he has a trials performance, and you're like,
but that's IBJJF, and IBJJF is a different animal
than ADCC, and it's
and these rules, which are closer to ADCC rules,
which is my other concern as well. Yeah. It's like there's a lot going on here. I think you're leaning Haddad then.
Yeah, I'm leaning Haddad.
I'm leaning Achilles. But
mostly
a victory for Haddad doesn't surprise me.
Mostly just because I've seen more of his matches recently.
Yeah, with the big PGF he did. Next match we have, I think it's the last one we cover on the card. We have Alex Enriquez versus Julia Alves. It is, again, given the strength of the card, it makes sense this is as low as it is.
Yeah.
This is a really good match. I'm super amped for this match. Julia Alves has been a monster in the AJP scene recently, winning a bunch of stuff when she was combined brown and black belt in 2021.
But the question for me is, what does her no gi look like?
Is mostly a gi fighter.
Yeah.
We did see her in ADCC Brazilian trials. She gets all the way to the finals. She loses to Maisa Bastos with a violent arm lock in kind of a weird match, but it's Maisa Bastos, 10-time world champion. You're like, that tracks. You're a new black belt. That makes sense that she would lose to Maisa Bastos, one of the best women ever at the weight class. Alex Enriquez has the tools to win this. I do lean Julia Alves. But again, if Alex Enriquez can leverage more no-gi experience...
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
She can win.
Where's the last time I've seen Alex Enriquez compete?
Was it main character? Was it
no,
trials?
Do you know what it was? It was combat jiu-jitsu.
Yes, Medusa.
It was...
Oh, not Medusa. The other one.
It wasn't Medusa. It was the team event. It was Subversive.
Okay.
I think.
No, it wouldn't be.
It was a team. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
what
it
was
wasn't. Maybe it wasn't combat jiu-jitsu. Maybe it was just a team 10th Planet event.
Okay.
But it was. I saw her on one of those because I remember sometimes when I don't see the face and the name, I get
She got
confused.
injured, didn't she?
I don't know about
And
that.
then had to pull out or something. She looked really good, and then didn't go to the next match because she had injured herself.
No, that was combat jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that one.
And then that one girl got through.
Yes, that tournament.
No, but after that, she did a bracket.
Okay.
She was in a bracket for either Subversive or one of those. So I've seen her do some lower level tournaments. I mean, she is high level because she did win trials.
Not win.
Didn't she win trials? East Coast?
Did she win? God,
Or
the
did she-
women's East Coast trials is always so weird because I always forget who wins it. Because
She did because she beat her woman. She beat her girlfriend.
Oh, she beat her girlfriend. Yeah.
Or did she beat her girlfriend in
semifinals?
In
not
semifinals.
in finals.
And then, okay, I'm gonna look this up. Talk for a second.
I'm gonna fill space.
Fill
Because
space.
East Coast would have been Mo Black beating Helena Krovar at. This was the new women's
No,
weight
but this
classes.
is this. She's a smaller one.
Yes, so this would have been one below. That would have been under 65.
No, because her and her wife were in the same bracket, and they're both teeny tiny people. And
Under 55.
They both cut to 55.
They were both under 55.
So they were the lowest.
Alex Enriquez would have faced off against, who is the other woman at under 55 kilos for ADCC 2020? That would have been 2023. ADCC 2023.
So she's
under
been-
55 kilo finals.
She also has been doing a lot of. She did Subversive.
Yeah, you're right.
She did combat jiu-jitsu. She does the
The U.S. wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, UWW for
UWW.
world team
Yeah.
for U.S.
and
She's
I
a member
forget
there.
because that's not something we cover a lot of the time.
Yeah.
That I forget.
I watch
that.
a lot of it, but it is astonishingly difficult to cover for us. Regardless, again, this is a really fun match. It could go either way. I'm very excited to see Alex Enriquez again and get a chance to talk about her matches, and Julia Alves has been exciting.
Yeah, she won
recently.
East Coast Travels and took silver at West Coast.
That's what it was. Okay.
And it's because the women don't win.
Yeah,
their
you
way
don't win
in
you don't win a
on East-
slot
yeah.
because there are only eight women. So the second qualifier every other year, your regional championship. So the North American champion every other year for women makes it a lot for ADCC for the World Championships.
Exactly.
The men's North American champion every year wins that.
Yeah.
So
It gets a little complicated.
yeah, but so that's it. We also have Carlos Enrique versus Victor DeBellio.
Victor DeBellio is a fight sports. He just got his brown belt. He was a purple belt, but he was like freaking murdering people. And Carlos Enrique's been around for a
long
bit.
time.
Yeah.
So should be fun. That's at 155 as well. So that's it. That's what we got this week. Should be a fun card. We will recap it next week.
It's on Thursday.
Yep. You got anything else going on this week, Miranda? Anything fun?
I'm going to do the Montreal Open, ADCC Montreal Open.
Nice.
Because they have some old women like me in it.
I'm going to coach at Naga this
And
weekend.
I've never been. I thought about doing Naga, but there's like 2 women that are.
Yeah. And my wife looked at the registrations and went, yeah, I have Miranda 2 weight classes above me, and I have one other woman 2 weight classes below me.
Yeah.
And it was very funny because she looked at both of you. She goes, I'm not going to pay to fight Miranda because we can just go
'cause
to
we've
open
been-
mat and like scrap.
No, because why are you going to pay $100 for this stupid belt?
Right. It's like, come to open mat, we'll train together, and then we're done.
If I didn't like your wife, I would go against her, but I like your wife, so I'm not going to go against her.
She's great. I appreciate
You
that.
know?
So it was funny. You're incomplete registration for Naga, and she looked and went, "No, I'm not going to. I'm not going to 155."
Well, and the thing is, I know the chick somebody just entered at 135, who I also know because of course we know everybody.
Yeah, we're local.
But it's like I just don't like. I don't want to
fight
pay
her.
the money to spend that to do that. Like,
So I'm gonna coach. I have a bunch of guys from my club and the gym going. So I've committed
That's
the
this
day.
weekend, isn't it?
It is this weekend. And also the Baltimore Tattoo Convention's there, so we're gonna go down do the same thing.
Oh, is it really?
Yep, in the convention center.
Oh
so
God,
it'll be a good weekend.
That's gonna be an interesting crowd
It'll be
up in
fun.
that place.
It's always that's gonna.
You know, parking's gonna suck.
It always sucks. It's the city. Parking always sucks. So that'll be my weekend, and then we'll get a chance. Honestly,
Don't get a bad tattoo at the convention.
I have no tattoos. We're not gonna get any tattoos.
just don't do it.
I won't. So, Miranda, any closing thoughts on the week?
No, don't get a bad 2 at a tattoo convention.
I will not. So, as always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, joined with my co-host,
Miranda.
and we are the Grappling Rewind. See you on the mat, wherever it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.